So my statement is, if they're going to negotiate any one point of the contract of the treaty, then maybe the treaty should be totally renegotiated in modern times. And in modern times, there is no First Nation. It's Canada. So Cal, on that point, what do you see as the legal rights or status of these contracts when they want to renegotiate terms?
Things change all the time. 100 years ago, people had no idea what it was going to be like today and what the realities are. But what they did know is that the Indigenous people could no longer continue to live in the manner in which they were living in the past. The foundation of their societies, in the prairies, for example, buffalo, were gone.
Right.
And the reality is that they were accepting European ideas such as the gun, steel, knives, pots,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and they were moving quite quickly and quite radically from a hunter-gatherer society to a more modern society. And now that we find ourselves in a more modern society, we have to look at these things and say, why are we continuing with what has now become a fiction?
Right.
And the problem I see is if people are created equal and we're treating one group better or worse than another within our society, we live in an apartheid state. And I find that offensive.
And I do too. I think that is reverse discrimination for sure. I think you hit on some points there when you were talking about, we should all have equal rights. And the idea that these reservations in the Indian Act were set up was to protect the individuals from themselves, in essence, because Hollywood image of the native issues is that all the tribes were kumbaya and friendly and worked together, and that's why the name First Nations came about, is that they were a nation working together. Well, that's not the truth. The enemy of my enemy was my enemy meant that many of the tribes joined the French, many of the tribes joined the English because they were enemies of the corresponding First Nations tribes, and they were always at war with one another. Then when the conquest happened, the resources of the American landscape changed. They couldn't be hunters and gatherers. And the only means of getting enough food to survive would be to be agricultural-based societies. And they were not as well equipped to do that, so there was going to be a planned transition, and I think that's why the reservation formula was set up, so that they could transition into agricultural-based society to feed themselves, because the buffalo was gone. And when the buffalo was gone, there was a major food source gone. And this, not every tribe was in the plains and the prairies, but it would apply across the nation. And under the Indian Act, the Inuit are a different status than the Indian status. And that's because they conquested the northern part of Canada and Alaska 500 years before the Vikings landed here. And they traded with the Vikings across Russia and across Greenland before the European invasion occurred. And they kicked the Dene and the northern native tribes, pushed them south and took over the northern part. And that was the real first invasion of North America, I think, in modern times. So they got a different status.
I think that's all garbage. They are as much a First Nation in the sense that they were hunter-gatherers living in a region prior to the European influence. As simple as that. And they should have. It's another distinction based on race.
Right.
which I think is an inequality in itself.
Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and please share the video. Don't be afraid to share this commercial with your friends too.